A feature I've been dying to see on PS4 is external hard drive support, and as of firmware 4.50, we finally have the option. Supporting up to 8 TB, PS4 now connects to USB 3 external drives for expanded storage. Crucially, that means you can play games directly from an external drive as well as using your regular inbuilt hard drive, increasing storage space without tampering with the PS4 itself. But the question is, now we have it, what's the best way to use this feature? It's Tom here, and today I'm looking at paths you can take, one for capacity and the other for speed. The first route obviously involves a massive mechanical drive like the Seagate external USB drive I have here. In this case I have the 4 TB model costing around £120, but that's still a decent ratio between gigabytes and price and should soak up most games you'll have in your library. The positive side to this approach, less time spent deleting and re-downloading games, which remains a big issue for PS4 owners, especially if you're still on a standard 500GB stock drive. But on the other hand, with such a large 4 TB platter, I did question going in whether loading times would be better or worse than PS4's internal drive. But then there's the other approach, getting the fastest loading times possible from this same USB connection. For this, you buy a solid state drive like the 480GB OCZ Trion and slot it into a USB drive enclosure. Or in my case, gut out an existing USB drive like this Xbox branded one and just put it in there. From there, the PS4 won't know the difference from a regular external hard drive. Of course, it's faster, but large SSDs are still notoriously expensive, putting a limit on how much expanded storage you'll end up with for the same price. But the idea is, rather than store all your games on this, you'd instead use it as a fast cache for titles which really need it. So to test, let's kick off with loading time tests on a regular PS4. Here we have a 3-way split between the stock internal PS4 5400 RPM drive on top left, the external 4 TB Seagate drive top right, and the OCZ SSD inside a USB enclosure on bottom left. First up, I'm loading Concord Town in Fallout 4, a fresh boot of the game that immediately shows a clear scale of improvement between the 3 drives. It's a pattern that follows for every single game I've tried. So the big surprise is that the 4 TB external drive actually improves loading times over PS4's regular drive, as well as having the advantage of more space. It takes 44 seconds to load Concord, shaving 23% off PS4 stock drive at 57 seconds. Sure, it doesn't match the SSD at 30, which almost halves the loading time by comparison, but the external 4 TB fits almost precisely in between the two. The same goes for exiting Vault 111 here, an example of traveling between 2 major areas in the game world. Again, for asset-heavy open world games, the 4 TB has a decent incentive on the side when it comes to speed. Let's quickly try that again with a big game like The Witcher 3. This one focuses on Novigrad City, packed with plenty of objects, NPCs and textures to load in one go from the main menu. And the turnout is pretty much as you'd expect. Now sadly, you still have to wait over a minute in all cases, but you at least cut off 8 seconds with the 4 TB external drive compared to PS4 stock drive, and a further 10 by moving to the external SSD. It's not bad, but the point is you're certainly not incurring longer load times by taking the USB option. It's always faster than internal. Another positive is it doesn't matter how full this 4 TB drive gets. Usually you can expect a large mechanical drive like this to suffer from slower seat times as the platter fills to capacity. But thanks to the FreeBSD formatting Sony uses on the expanded storage, the same as PS4's internal drive, speeds remain the same even when the drive is full. Essentially, FreeBSD guarantees the same transfer speeds across that 4 TB platter regardless of how full it gets. The catch? Well, it comes at the expense of slower seat times in general compared to, say, FAT32 or NTFS. But it is a logical choice for Sony in helping developers get consistent load times while creating the game, regardless of the state of the drive. And it means, crucially, that these results hold up even when the drive is filled to the brim. In summary then, the 4 TB Seagate external drive is a great option. Every game I tested gives fast results, and well, that space goes to great use as well. But let's take a look at the external OCZ SSD for a second. We're using a USB enclosure here to get fast loading speeds from a USB drive, but is it actually any better or worse than installing that same OCZ SSD directly into the PS4 as internal storage? To cut to the point, no, but it's very close regardless. Battlefield 1 has some of the longest loading times out there, with the Mud and Blood campaign stage taking almost 2 minutes on PS4 stock drive. So here are the SSD results side by side. On the left, plugged in externally via USB, and on the right, installed inside the PS4 via the SATA connection. And yes, it's fair to say the best option is still to go the internal route with an SSD. For Battlefield 1's campaign, you get 51 seconds externally, versus 47 with the SSD installed internally. And that goes for most other tests too. We get around a 10% advantage by keeping the SSD internal in games like The Witcher 3. Again, loading Novigrad shows a lead, but that's not to say there isn't a worthwhile benefit by going the external route, as we've seen compared to the stock PS4 drive times. It's still worth it. The last question I had though is, how does PS4 Pro fit into all of this? As we know, PS4 Pro hit faster loading times on average anyway compared to a regular PS4. The difference is slight on most games, but more pronounced with the likes of Pro supported titles like Battlefield 1 and Skyrim. So let's try the runner stage on Battlefield 1 here, using the 4TB Seagate drive as an example. On the left side we have the regular PS4 tests with the stock drive at top and 4TB drive on bottom. And on the right are the Pro equivalents of those tests. And as you can see, PS4 Pro does certainly win out on the stock side of the equation, no doubt. But when you look at the 4TB drive data, really there's not a lot in it. PS4 Pro wins out by a second, cutting 55 down to 54, but from what I've seen the gains are minor. So those are the options, a Seagate 4TB drive for size or the OCZ SSD in a USB enclosure for speed. Either way, adding external storage on PS4 is simple. Just connect it to the front USB port, go to PS4 settings menu, devices, USB storage devices, and then format your drive of choice. It takes a minute to format, but from there you can swap individual games to and from that extra storage. Though word of warning, your save files will stay on the console. This is by no means a comprehensive backup, and you'll need to use cloud saves or a USB stick if you're moving your USB drive to another PS4. Equally, because the free BSD format is meant as a security measure by Sony, these files can't be read by PC, but can happily be read by other PS4s. Overall though, ease of use isn't an issue. The only limitation really is that you can only have one drive actively being used by your PS4 at any time, which begs the question, do you go for a large 4TB drive or a fast SSD? Personally, I'd go with the Seagate 4TB drive for the money, but you could potentially hot swap between both, say if you have a group of games that really need the speed of an SSD. In general though, that 4TB external has an amazing bang for buck in storing the rest of your games. And either way, if you have the money for an external USB drive, you can rest easy knowing that loading times won't take a hit in the process, which is really the biggest worry I had going in. Anyway, that's it from me. As ever, I hope you found this interesting. Sorry if my voice was a bit rough for this one, just on the back of a cold, but hopefully it held up okay. If this video helped you decide which drive to get, a like or subscribe would be massively appreciated, but no pressure either way. Until next time though, thanks for watching.